We will now begin talking about dimensioning a drawing file. But first of all, I'd like to point out that I've been using the term drawing session, and I wanted to explain exactly what that means. Basically, a drawing session is when you open a file and you close it and you complete the task for the day. I'm going to select File, Opening the Kitchen Drawing, and I have opened an existing drawing. We're going to apply some dimensions here, and then eventually we're going to close out. That will constitute a drawing session. So if I continue to use the term, you'll now know what it means. Before we begin placing dimensions, it makes a little bit of sense to examine a dimension in Autocad. So what I have done is changed my background. I'm going to minimize Autocad. And as you can see, I have drawn out the anatomy of an Autocad dimension. In blue is the dimension as it will appear in a typical Autocad drawing with architectural dimension styles. In red are all the different variables that have to be adjusted within the dimension style window so that our dimension appears correct. Let me first explain, beginning down here, this dot that you see is referred to as a definition point. If I select this point first in my Autocad drawing, this is then my first definition point, and this becomes my first extension line, and this is my first half of the dimension line. I then go and select the other point, and that will place the second definition point in Autocad, and it will also continue by placing the second extension line and the second arrowhead and the second half of the dimension line. By the way, when you create or when you place the first dimension line in your drawing, a layer called def points will be created, and on that layer is where the definition points will reside. These 2 points are actually determining the distance that gets placed above the dimension line, and that is what's calculating the distance. And obviously we are drawing at actual size, so when we place our dimensions, just like we have checked our distance and it gives us the correct value, we will always see the correct value shown here. So if you take a moment just to look at the different parts of this dimension, you'll see how it's going to take us just a little bit of time to set up the first dimension style, but after that, when we create other dimensions, we will be able to modify this existing one. So as you can see, this is our first extension line, and this is referred to as the extension beyond the extension line, and this is referred to the extension beyond the dim line. This is our first arrowhead. Of course, it's not an arrowhead, it's a tick mark, but that's how Autocad refers to it. This is our text, and then we will indicate the height, and the distance between the text and the dimension line is referred to as the offset distance from the dimension line. In other words, how far do you want your text to be from the dimension line? When I place the values for the dimension, they're based on units of measurement that I'm using from printing out the drawing. In other words, when my final drawing prints out, at what size do I want these arrowheads to be, these extensions to be, and the text height? It's taken a lot of trial and error to determine that, and what I've come up with are some values that I think might help us as we begin to place dimensions in our drawings. So let us begin.